You lead us in the flag salute?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunshine Law Statement, all requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been met for this meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Oradell. Notice of this meeting was filed with the Record and Town News and all persons requesting such notice. Mr. Darian, would you read the mission statement?
The Oradell Public School District is dedicated to the ongoing pursuit of educational excellence through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district is committed to providing opportunities for social, emotional, and academic discovery to foster curiosity, courage, and character. Our goal is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who are self-directed, resilient, productive, responsible citizens.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mrs. Acosta? Mrs. Negum?
Here.
Mrs. Downey?
Here.
Mr. Griffin?
Here.
Mrs. Norian?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Darian?
Here.
Mrs. Nichols?
Here. At this time, we will open to the public for agenda items only. Okay, not seeing any. We will move forward. One of our favorite nights of the year, staff recognition, retirement. We'll do it first, so you all don't have to wait. And Teacher of the Year. So we're going to just start with the yearly recognition. So I guess when we call your name, come on up here, we'll give you a certificate, and then wait over there so we can take pictures, and we'll go from there. So we're going to start opposite the order in the agenda. We're going to start with 5 years and just go in alphabetical order. All right, Superintendent. Okay, so starting, we'll start with 5 years. Elizabeth Barone. Some people are here today. Sheila Daly.
I'm back. I'm back.
Yep, you got to stand over here.
Thank you. Mary Ann Doran. Gina Marana. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Rosine Mazzo. Victoria Mertens. Joan Novak. Kristen Scanlon. Danielle Westdyke. Okay, we'll move to 10 years. Helen Kapp. Stephanie Kruchek. Jennifer Loshavo. Blair McGrath. Okay, 15 years. Carol Nadiello. Amy Rabinowitz. Robin Weinzierl. Okay, 20 years, Jamie Caruana. Amy Kennedy. Don't trip on the cord. Lisa Mayella. "25 years, Marie Menti. Last but not least, 135-year anniversary to our very own Miss Tracy Shawn.
Got it.
That's good. Look it, look it. Thank you.
You go, girl.
Let's take a picture.
Should get him on the stage.
All right, get together. We'll take a picture, Mrs. Norian.
Should have put a platform down.
That's good. And you always angle, you always put one foot in front of the other. That makes this area look.
Before you all sit down, would anyone like to say anything? You don't have to, but if anyone would like to say anything, you're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Say something. Ms. Hawley's going to say a few words for all of you.
Mrs. Nichols read the times too fast for me to count up because, you know, I do like to combine our math skills with all of our years of service. But I want to highlight a couple of things. The beginning of the year this year, I met with our lunch aides, and Miss Robin said that she decided to be a lunch aide 15 years ago because it seemed like a nice hobby. So I hope all of us can find a hobby that we stick to for 15 years. One of the things I noticed is that we have people who stay at OPS, and I'm so proud of all of our staff members who come and stay. The fact that we have so many instructional aides that we're highlighting tonight, that we have our nurse assistants, our nurse, and all of our teachers really speaks to the wonderful community and how much our community is loved and supports one another. So I would just like to thank all of our teachers who are here, all of our educators who are here, and those who cannot come tonight. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We do have one retirement. She was not able to be here tonight, but I would like to read the resolution in her honor. It is from Ms. Patricia Hansen, an instructional aide who has been with us for 24 years. So whereas Patricia Hansen has tendered her resignation as an instructional aide in the Oradell Public School District to become effective July 1st, 2023, after 24 years of dedicated and faithful service to the Oradell Public School District, and whereas during her many years in our school system, she has supported the academic and social needs of the students of Oradell Public School, and whereas she has influenced the lives of many children and has earned the love and respect of students, colleagues, and the Oradell community, and whereas she has given unselfishly of her time and effort in the interest and welfare of the children of our school district, now therefore let it be resolved that the Oradell Board of Education hereby recognizes Ms. Hansen's contribution to the district and expresses its appreciation of her dedicated service, and directs that this resolution be included in the minutes of the board, and that a copy be presented to Ms. Patricia Hansen as a token of its esteem. Dated this 10th of May, 2023. So she was not able to be here tonight, but I would like to extend an invitation to her if she would like to come to a future meeting and we can recognize her, but we would like to thank her for her time. Okay, moving on to Teacher of the Year. Do you want to explain the process of Teacher of the Year, and then I'll open the envelope?
So each year in the fall, we ask the community to nominate a Teacher of the Year. And when we first started doing this, it was all parents. And what I'm so proud of is that our staff has really begun to step up and look at everyone around them and say, who is it that we look up to? Who is the person that we aspire to be as a teacher if we are a young teacher? Who is it that we go to if we are a veteran teacher? And once they submit those nominations, it's actually a pretty rigorous. People think we just read them and like pick a name, but there's actually a full rubric that has to be completed on each applicant, and it is done by a panel of teachers, and they are usually previous winners of Teacher of the Year, administrators, and parents. So this panel of 6 all reads these applications, scores them, and then the principal, Mrs. Hawley, has the lovely task of calculating all of that. So we are very proud to announce that Miss Macklin, oh, never mind, I'm getting yelled at again.
Anyway, I was able to get the plaque back from Mrs. Albrecht. I was able to get the plaque back from Mrs. Albrecht last year. Almost took off with it from the thing, so I got it back. So I just always like to go over the Teachers of the Year. 2018, Tracy Shum. 2019, Rosemary Cataldo. 2020, Melissa Pisa. 2021, Jeannie Black. 2022, Helene Albrecht. And 22-23, Miss Leslie Macklin.
Thank you.
I'm just going to read, come on in here. I'm just going to read the certificate that we get from the Department of Education. The State of New Jersey Department of Education 22-23 Governor's Educator of the Year program awarded this certificate of recognition to Leslie Macklin in honor of the contributions of being an outstanding educator in a New Jersey public school.
Yeah, that's it.
If anyone wants to speak now or forever hold your peace.
Hello, good evening.
Leslie, I have a friend and a colleague. I don't think you person. When I first started, shared a very notable student. And the only goal that we had to live up to with that child had to stay.
The only goal that we had to stay up to for that particular child was he had to stay in school. You probably remember this child, and I don't need to mention his name, but I learned very quickly from you that you had a very caring, nurturing, and would do anything for any child at our school. Every day you showed up, you looked at me, I looked at you, we looked at him, we never saw his eyes for several months. Not a day went by that you didn't try something. Legos, hey, how are you? A quick rub on your back, kneeling down to see if you could see his eyes from underneath the desk. I realized at that moment I had a lot to learn from you. I learned that you were going to be the type of person that would go beyond measure. And you truly define, if I believe it, they will become. That is something that I have lived up to as an educator myself, and something that I pass along to other future educators that come after us. Thank you so much for your years of service, not only as an educator, especially for the population that you serve, but for all the years that you've dedicated to the Oradell Education Association and all the duties that you do here at OPS. I think out of all the staff members, you probably have served the most amount of weddings, baby showers, probably given more designer gifts than I can recall. So thank you for all that you do, and with all my heart, congratulations, and I love you.
Leslie, how are you? It's good to see you up there, it really is. Scott Duffy, oh, yeah. It's all about you tonight. It's not a share, it's all about you. Before I begin, the dedication for this Teacher of the Year award, I'd like to take just a moment to celebrate all the people that are here tonight, and including Patty. And I'm sorry Patty Hansen couldn't be here. I worked with her. She's just an intuitive, dedicated, and caring teacher. And so many of us, Jen and Amy, Jamie, among all the others that are honored tonight, I've had the good fortune of working with all of them. And I have to say, I've learned more from them than I think they from me. And that's, I think, what made me a more satisfied teacher and definitely a more confident teacher. My best wishes to you all on your journeys ahead. This evening, I'm going to focus primarily on you, Leslie, on the teacher that we have named the Quiet Force. And that might not be fitting enough. I have known and respected Leslie Macklin for a major part of my own professional career. She started here at Oradell just a few short years after me. She and I quickly became friends and trusted colleagues, but most importantly, friends. Known for her fashionable designer eyeglasses, her one-of-a-kind choker necklaces, her taste in expensive luxury cars, and her collection of Hermes scarves, which she gently corrected me as I said Hermes scarves. Leslie could always be spotted around the school building, perfectly accessorized in the most tasteful, unique, and fashionable way. We were hesitant to ask her to be on negotiations in the past, and here's why. Because someone with fine and expensive taste and a very expensive car whipping in and out of the parking lot would give the negotiations team the wrong idea, I think. How are we ever going to settle a contract with Miss Macklin whizzing by? In any event, that was then, this is now. Beyond her elite sense of style, Miss Malkin, as one of our earlier former students affectionately would call her, was an educator who deeply cared about the students she patiently and lovingly taught. Whether she was in her own small group setting or among those students who were not under her designated umbrella, she supported all the kids in the classroom. Every child, special needs or not, felt that Miss Macklin was indeed one of their teachers, and that's what made and continues to make her so incredibly special. Kids are naturally drawn to Miss Macklin. I know this for a fact, as I co-taught with her for many years and have witnessed it firsthand. She is a gentle, patient, and safe sounding board that her many students often and regularly sought. I would see her counseling some teary-eyed students or gently reassuring another youngster who was in distress, also laughing along with kids who were happy, and she made them even happier. Perhaps they did not have their homework, or perhaps they had a joke or a story to tell. She was never harsh or curt. She was always empathetic, guiding, patient, and kind. As I continue to spotlight her professional accolades, Leslie has dedicated herself to so many important but thankless ventures. Here are a few: volunteering for the endless curriculum committees, serving as the OA recording secretary for countless years, or being co-chair of the social committee for even more countless events. She continues to invest herself and her time in celebrating other colleagues and their milestones. Tonight, deservedly, she is one of those who is being recognized and celebrated. I will share a little bit more about Leslie the person. Her lovely parents were an integral part of her ultimate career decision. You may not have known this, but her dad was a beloved and dedicated educator himself who served as a superintendent of schools for many years just across the Hudson River. Her mom, the original Miss Macklin, who's sitting here tonight, of whom I've had the great pleasure of getting to know better and better, is a dynamic and energetic force in her own right, retiring after a long and illustrious career in public service. Near Leslie's Rockland County roots, she continues to keep Leslie grounded and is her #1 cheerleader. Growing up with these two solid role models set a very high standard for Leslie to not only be well-educated, but also to bestow her with a keen sense of business, diplomacy, taste, and culture, while all bundled tightly together with a good dose of wit and humor. Leslie's interests and talents are vast. Her love for fashion and expensive imported cars seems to be only eclipsed by her love of tennis. I always know where Leslie will be during the last weeks of August or the first 2 weeks of the new school year. Yes, of course, tirelessly in her classroom getting her room ready for the upcoming year, but after all that, she is regularly known to dash over to Arthur Ashe Stadium during the U.S. Open to catch her favorite tennis heroes in action. She and I do not always agree about which tennis players are the best. As the tournament progresses, we get closer and closer to agreement. We love the winners. But we all seem to settle on that common favorite in the end. So if any of you here tonight find yourselves with an extra ticket or two, I'm sure she would be glad to fill those seats for you. And on a small side note, it has been very satisfying over the last few years to see that dedicated and talented senior staff members, like Miss Albrecht last year, Miss Macklin this year, are being honored as Teacher of the Year. It's also satisfying and encouraging to see that the community has recognized years of experience and loyalty to our craft, and they are being valued and celebrated, as opposed to being sometimes discounted. So thank you for that. Good choice. My advice to you, Leslie, is always know where you are, who you are, and what you are capable of beyond reproach. There may occasionally be a small gaggle of critics in the vast audience of supporters, but train your ear to hear only those that will lift you. The rest are really just noise. Leslie, you are here because we are in an audience of only fans and supporters tonight, of which I am one. To you, my friend, I give you my most sincere congratulations.
Don't worry, Scott took everything that I was going to say. So Scott Duthie mentioned your love of tennis, and that is what I'm leading with today. So I don't know much about tennis, but I turned to one of who I think is one of the most iconic tennis players ever, Venus Williams. And let's compare Miss Williams' career to yours. So Venus Williams says, you have to do things right to stay in business. Leslie Macklin has been teaching for a few years at OPS. She says it's not easy, and that's a choice on a daily basis. While we do want to think that everyone wants to get up and come to OPS every day, there are some days, admittedly, it's harder than others. But you, Leslie, make the choice every day, except when it's really, really snowy, because of the very expensive vehicle you drive. Miss Williams also says, you have to differentiate and know how to be true to your brand. And that is what you do. I thought it very interesting that the word differentiation was in this quote, because that's what you do every day. You often have only 6 children in front of you in your small group classes, but you have 6 children with very different needs, and you have to find different ways to meet those needs and to keep them excited. You always ask for our upper grade students, particularly our 6th graders, and they're not always the ones who come in loving the math that you love to teach or the writing that you're working on. But you always manage to show them how much you care about them and how much you need them to be successful. And they know because you love them that they work harder. The final part of this quote is, you have to offer something that people want and to offer something that you love. You give that to us every day. I often tell you you're my history keeper, and I know you think that's because you're old, and it's not at all. It's really because you have paid attention. Some of the other people who have been here as long or longer have not paid attention to the history that you have. So I know when I need to know exactly what the feeling and idea behind a 6th grade award was, or who has worked in different areas, I know I can come to you. That makes you invaluable. You also work very, very hard to make our summer explorations program extremely successful year after year, and we've worked to change it and grow it in the last few years, and it's gotten to be an even bigger, more successful program. Thank you for all you do for OPS, for all the time that you give, and for how much you love all of us. We are blessed to have you.
When Mr. Duthie used 2 words, they were the most perfect 2 words, that business sense and the diplomacy. As you know, Leslie oversees the explorations program, and when I first got here and had to also oversee that program that I had never seen before, that's hard. And Leslie led me through the way. She was the one that had the patience to explain the program to me, and she has every teacher's back during that program. If a class doesn't really have the right numbers to run, Leslie's going to make the argument to support her staff and those teachers and figure out a way to make it run. And to this board, I was going to say, don't worry, I wasn't going to throw you there. And to this board, that program has to be self-funding. That's always been our agreement. You never have to worry about it because she has the bottom line. She can tell you at any point during the program, whether it's in the red, whether it's not, how much money ahead we are. I am so appreciative of that because, and I know our administrative team is as well, because when June comes and explorations comes, we don't have to worry because we have Leslie. And it's what she does every single day here for our staff, but she continues it when the rest of us want to say, it's July and I'm done. So on behalf of the district, thank you.
Share this with many of you. Helene started explorations, so it's been my pleasure to continue that. I definitely, Scott, you mean the world to me. Thank you. And Amy, part of our present 6th grade, and everyone else, thank you. I'm just overwhelmed.
Why don't you come over here? It's a better background than curtains tonight, but all that other stuff. Right over here, this is the nice lady. Yes, right here, because then you. Oh, well, let's, yeah. Yeah, thank you. You can zoom over there and closer and we'll help you. Yeah. Do you want to hold it again? No. Oh. It's your turn to hold it. It's not hers anymore. It doesn't hold it anymore. It belongs to you. Don't let her touch it. We may not have that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just add one more
Yes.
thing? I think that over the years, it's never been a matter of who Leslie works with. It's that she's here for every kid. And she's so humble about it that it is really heartening. And I have enjoyed knowing her all these years.
So at this time, we'll take a 2-minute break for anyone who wants to leave and not stay for the rest of our meeting. You're all invited to stay. We would love to have you stay, but we'll take a 2-minute break.
And
Oh,
can
Mrs.
I
Dorian?
add one more thing?
Yeah.
That in the number of years that we celebrated tonight, it's 250.
250
So I
years
did
of
the math
experience.
for you. 250 years.
Spring Fling. It's in the parking lot. 2 nights. 2 nights, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. What are they going to do from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. both nights? What is it?
Putting up the tent. Following full day to 11 p.m.
And where is that? That's in the parking lot. That's during school. Is that on a weekend?
Okay. That was lovely. Uh, So, as the board knows, the board and Ms. Bozios and Mr. Marmara did a bagel breakfast this morning for the staff, and wanted to thank Mrs. Walker for all of her help setting it up yesterday and picking up everything and going to the grocery store. So we couldn't do it without you, Mrs. Walker. How did it go? Did it go well? You were here.
Mr. Darian and I were both here, and we thought it went very well. Everyone seemed very appreciative, and it was well received, and it was a nice atmosphere. They slapping the cream cheese on the bagels and things.
But thank you for doing all the legwork.
My pleasure, and thank you for ordering all the bagels.
That was the easy part. Okay, so we will move on to superintendent's report.
In official school business, we received confirmation that the state has approved our submitted HIB self-assessment score. We reviewed the self-assessment in October, and that presentation explaining the score is on the front page of the OPS website. The official score report is also in the HIB folder on the front page of the website, highlighting a score of 70 out of a possible 78 points. Additionally, Oradell Public School will be presenting Beauty and the Beast Junior on May 18th, 19th, and 20th. We're using a new platform for the purchase of tickets where audience members are able to choose the specific seat they would like for the performance. We have already sold almost 1,000 tickets to Beauty and the Beast. Thursday night and Friday night are probably within 50 tickets have sold out each night. Saturday still has probably half the auditorium open. I've snuck in a few times to watch rehearsals, and I am so looking forward to the show. I hope that Mr. Butcher is home resting tonight, because the next week of rehearsals are a lot for our music department. But they are tackling it great, and the kids are getting so much better, and they are getting so excited. We are also in the middle of NJSLA testing, and I wanted to express my appreciation to the administrative team, teachers, aides, and our students for embracing the testing period. People don't realize that testing impacts everyone, as we have to change when a student goes to a special area class, which bathrooms are to be used, which rooms can be used for students who require small group testing modifications. The school team has truly worked to make the week seem like a fun challenge and not something to dread, along with music being played when you pick up your tickets and signs welcoming them to the testing period on the door to the principal's office. Our younger grade students even delivered posters of good luck to hang in the upper grade classrooms. We continue to test through the end of May, and I cannot tell you how well testing is going, but it really is because of the work of our district testing coordinator, Mrs. Brancato, and the administrative team. And finally, it is Educator Appreciation Week. In an email I sent to the staff yesterday inviting them to the breakfast this morning, I told them that there is clearly a reason why Educator Appreciation takes place in May. It's in May that we need to be reminded that education is hard, but important. I am so grateful for every educator at OPS, and everyone in this building is an educator. We teach them through how we interact in the office, how we connect in the lunchroom, and of course, how we inspire in the classroom. Our children are the heart of our community, but it is our educators who are the lungs that bring life and energy into each day. I hope every educator takes a moment to celebrate who they are and the work they have done this year as the community celebrates them. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Marmora.
No report.
We'll move to minutes, review of April 26th. Any questions or comments, please contact Mr. Marmora. Do I have a motion to approve April 12th?
I move that we approve the minutes of April 12th.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions or discussion? Call the question.
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downey?
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yeah.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, moving to committee reports. Mr. Darian, would you take administrative?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to introduce items A1 through A5. A1, the recognition of Leslie Macklin for Governor's Educator of the Year program. A2, the recognition of our staff for milestones. A3, I can't seem to find, oh, there it is, Special Education Week in New Jersey. This would be May 14th through the 20th. And A4 is Teacher Appreciation Week, May 8th through the 12th. And finally, A5 is a HIB report that we received.
I'll second it.
Second, any questions?
Second.
Oh, second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question?
Mrs. Negum,
Yes.
Mrs. Downing,
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Norian,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Darian?
Yes, I'd like to introduce item B1.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions?
I have one.
Mr. Darian?
Just a reminder for the Spring Fling, Friday, 9 to 11 p.m., that we notify the neighbors ahead of time so that we don't have any surprises.
Any other discussion?
I'll second.
Call the question?
Mrs. Negum,
Yes.
Mrs. Downing, Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Norian,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yeah.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, curriculum, Mrs. Negum?
Nothing to report today.
Finance, Mr. Griffin?
Yes. Before I make a motion, I just want to call attention to D8. There was money that the Oradell Kids Foundation provided, about, I think it's like $5,600 for mini grants. So big thank you to them for providing that, and you'll see that in D8. With that, I would like to make a motion for D1 through D8.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any discussion? Mrs. Walker?
I just have a question on D4, the approval of the tuition rate. Did they go up or did they stay the same from last year?
So the tuition rates are generated from the state budget software after we were finished approving the software. I would just have to double check, and I can compare. I'll take a look to see what last year's were, because they do vary from year to year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Griffin?
Yeah, and one other question on that one. Do we usually break out the tuition rates in the same categories? Is that how we typically do it?
It's set by the state.
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes, on D5, the schedule for payments, tax revenue, I guess this is from the municipality. Is this the same schedule we have through every year, starts at August and goes through June, or is this a different calendar for whatever reason?
Same calendar.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, I
Mrs. Walker?
have a question on D6. It said it is hereby moved upon recommendation of the interim superintendent. That might be a typo.
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
Good catch.
Thank you.
I have a question. The Oradell Kids Foundation mini grant. Can you tell us what this program is and who came up with it? Like, did they come up with it on their own or do we ask for it? What is it?
The Oradell Kids Foundation reached out this fall and asked us to perhaps rethink some of our programming, not because we were kind of in a rut of always doing the same programs. And they as a foundation saw that social and emotional learning was an area that maybe we could focus on based on some of what they were seeing in children. And so we talked to grade level chairs about what to do. And truthfully, in the fall, it felt like one more thing. And we started to talk as an administrative team, and Mrs. Hawley came up with this idea of one of the biggest concerns we have is our kids are giving up, that we're not developing a sense of grit. So, am I allowed to let the secret out? Yeah. Okay, so next year's theme at Oradell Public School will be grit. We are using this day to launch that theme. It will allow every grade level in the school to work through kind of like American Ninja activities on the field, and there will also be grit activities in the classroom to talk about what are the skills you have to have to develop perseverance? What's in your toolbox that allows you to do that? So they'll deal with that activity outside, and then we'll also continue to reflect on that inside. Along with that is Mr. Jim Stroker, coach, as everyone in Bergen County knows him, will also come in to do a parent workshop, which we will provide babysitting for all parents that want to attend to try to entice to get more here. Those of you know Coach Stroker came in this fall to speak to the staff. He also has spoken at River Edge to their staff. He is the father of Allie Stroker, who is the actress in a wheelchair who won the Tony. And he's also a Bergen County teacher and a Bergen County parent and a Bergen County coach. And he's very relatable. So we thought he was a really good person to talk to parents about challenge isn't bad. Challenge makes you stronger. And how do you help your child when there are challenges to work through them? Because it's hard. It's easy sometimes just to give in to help them. But his message hopefully will set us on a path to continue to focus on that next year.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I have one follow-up
Mrs.
question.
Negum?
Yeah. So the grant was accepted for this year, but the program is being offered in the following year?
The grant, this event will be done this spring. Okay? And then at the end of the day, we're going to launch kind of the theme of grit for next year. So it's kind of to set the stage and get everyone thinking about it.
Okay, thank you.
Instead of just doing something in the spring that just felt like a one and done, we wanted it to have meaning, and we felt the best way to do that was to use it to launch something moving forward.
Any other questions? Call the question?
Mrs. Negum?
Yes.
Mrs. Downey?
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes?
Mrs. Norian?
Yeah.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes. Delegate report. I know you have a lot of things to discuss, Mr. Walsh.
Well, I am the delegate for the Oradell Public School and have been for almost 30 years. And these are, I handed out resolutions that will be discussed at Saturday's meeting. The first page is 4 resolutions that the committee, the subcommittee threw out. And if you notice, Plainfield had 2 of them. And if you look at what I did was, and I want to thank Mrs. Gallagher for helping me out. I tried to get into the school and I couldn't. And I tried to get downstairs and I couldn't. And I went upstairs and I could. So Eileen helped me out. Xeroxing what you have in front of you are the resolutions that are going to be voted on Saturday when I go to the meeting. And the first one is resolution number 1 from Huntington Central. Proposes new policy language limiting New Jersey mandated student assessments to 1 assessment or 1 assessment series that measures student proficiency in the New Jersey student learning standards, and that all other standards be left to the discretion of the local district based on each district's assessment needs. After the subcommittee looked at it, they came up with the recommendation that's going to be voted on. This is the recommendation that's going to be voted on. That the NJSBA believes that state-required assessments should be limited to 1 assessment series, and the NJGPA that measures student proficiency in the NJSLS, and that any additional testing should be left to the discretion of the local district based on individual district assessment needs.
Okay, so let's discuss this one, because you're going to be voting on these, right? So we'll go one by one. So let's ask Ms. Bozio
Does
the question.
anybody have any comments about the first one?
I have a question. Do we have mandated, is there mandated state testing other than one series? Like, what are they talking about, do you know?
The way I'm reading this is the
JGPA?
The NJGPA is your graduation performance assessment. Okay, that's the task you have to pass to graduate from high school. So the way I'm reading this is that they're saying that should be the only test, and that anything up to 12th grade should be left up to district discretion, and that the only required one for the state would be saying you have to pass this test to graduate.
So they're saying to get rid of the NJSLS in 12th grade and just do the NJGPA?
No, I actually think they're saying that the only test you should do the entire time a child is in public school is the NJGPA. Because it's saying one assessment series, and that the NJGPA that measures student proficiency kind of be that one.
Who else reads it this way? I don't know if I read it that way. I thought it was per year, one per year. You're saying one per lifetime in school, K to 12.
The other thing that's in here at the end of the language is that all other assessments be left to the discretion of the local districts based on each district's assessment needs. So it's not limiting a district from doing more, but it is saying from a state mandated standpoint, right?
Are you reading it as one a year, or just the mandated one is only senior year and then the rest are up to the
One assessment or one series assessment per year from the state.
You're not reading it that, honestly, I'm reading it that way too, but you're reading it as.
I have a question.
Because that's what we currently do.
We give a
That's why I'm
12th grade
confused.
exam, right? In order for the kids to graduate? It's currently being done?
Correct.
All right. My understanding is that was a joke though, right?
There's been a lot of discussion about whether it should even be in place.
So to rely on that, I don't know, that would be lowering the bar in my opinion.
I think it would be causing more discrepancy across districts. So my guess is the state would say you have to do something, and we would say, okay, we have Lincoln, okay? And that would be ours, but that doesn't allow us to kind of have that quantitative comparison.
Well, NJGPA is senior year only, right?
Yeah.
So that's what Greg's saying is a joke. That's what you're talking about as a joke.
Yeah.
The 12th grade one, he's not even talking about ours.
Correct, but what I'm saying is that the other ones,
Is this just for high schools?
that's what
This must be just for high schools.
Plus, I think one of my concerns
that
is-
might make sense. It is Hunterdon Central Regional High School District is proposing it.
So you would
So
have
they may
to,
be saying,
There's nothing in here that says each year or, more than 1 year. They're just referring to that one particular test as being the major, but they're talking about one assessment series and the NJGPA. So it sounds to me like they're not talking about just one test. They're talking about a series plus the NJGPA.
and the only thing that I could think could be at work here is if this resolution was written prior to, say, 6 weeks ago, we were doing the Start Strong assessment in the fall and the NJSLA assessment in the spring. We've already received word from the Department of Education that there will be no Start Strong next year. So I think we're all trying to figure out exactly what it's speaking about.
see, the problem is that this is not just one page for Huntington. This is a whole bunch of pages with a whole bunch of explanations. If I did this, we'd be here till Saturday.
Can Greg look at that quick? Can we look at that quick?
Yeah, there's about 5 or 6 pages
Just for this one? Okay, so you want to
with
take a
the
look at that while we're moving on?
explanation.
Okay, so Greg will take a look at that while we're moving on. Let's move to number 2. What's number 2? We'll come back to this one. What's number 2, Mr.
Number
Walsh?
2 is from Plainfield, another resolution from Plainfield. They actually sent in 4 resolutions. 2 of them we threw out, but 2 of them we kept. Resolution number 2 seeks to allow skilled professionals to obtain certification and be excused from demonstrating basic skills proficiency through alternative methods to traditional tests in the CTE programs without English proficiency for applicants who are non-English speaking. So a lot of these resolutions really don't apply to us as an elementary school. But in this case, they want to pass a resolution that will allow non-English speaking people to work in their district.
But the resolution subcommittee did not support this amendment, so I would say the vote would be no. They do not support it.
Yeah, they don't want.
So you would vote, depending on what the board says, you would vote no. This would be a
Yes.
no.
No, I agree.
Does anyone have any question, any discussion on this one?
Pretty straightforward.
I have never voted for something that did not have anything to do with elementary school education, so.
So number 2, no. Okay, number 3.
Number 3 is another one from Plainfield. This proposes additional policy language that would enhance and support student health services by including training for teaching staff and administrators in the provision of emergency support services. Now, we do take training, the teachers do take training, right? But they want, if this passes, they want the state to come up with money so that all the teachers in the district can go to the training.
Comments on this one? This one seems kind of straightforward. I'm going to use the Good Samaritan clause, I think. Immunity from the legal process for staff members.
This is, that was 3.
Ms. Bozios, we already have people trained in this, so do not all districts, or what's the law now?
The state law says that we have to have 5 people within the building trained and, have all their certifications updated for CPR and AED. All districts, all staff members in the district already need asthma treatment, asthma training. It's one of the ones we do through Safe Schools, just like seizure training.
So what is this? This is to have everybody trained on AED and CPR?
That's what it sounds like. Or increase that number perhaps from 5 to 10, or come up with a new.
Regular refresher courses. This doesn't seem like a terrible thing to have refresher courses if they're going to pay for it, right?
And on this one,
I think Key and JSBA is asking for specific funding for this,
Yeah.
as opposed to just putting.
well, they have their doctor in the district. The school doctor and the nurse are in the district, part of the administration, I guess.
I guess one of my questions would be, I know how hard it is to use our PD days appropriately and, get all the goals that we're trying to do. Would something like this pull from our time that we would be able to use for PD, or if it's state mandated, it would not?
I don't think it's going to be mandated for everyone, the way it's read, so that.
If the state was to give money to train people, I wouldn't be surprised if you had people that were willing to volunteer their time after school. We have at times said to staff members pre-COVID, is anyone interested in getting CPR AED? Because we believe that the more people, the better. 5 is the minimum you have to have. So I think there are ways to go about it, but I agree with you. Like, I would be concerned about giving a professional development day.
Still seems like a good,
Is everyone good with number 3? So number 2 is a no.
Number 4, This is from the Tom's River Regional. And they suggest to change the policy language seeking the ability for boards of education that hold their elections in November to put a second question on the general election ballot that would apply for the next fiscal year. The next fiscal year, not the year that the vote is on.
That's a good idea. That's a good thing. If we wanted to put one on for the following school year, we don't have to wait.
I'm sure that, at what point do the taxes go up, though? If they have a second question.
Well, it would be for the following year, and then that would go through the following budget process.
That's automatic because it's already been voted on, right? If it passes?
Well, if it passes I don't know if you'd be bound to it, or I guess it depends how the question is written, but if the board wants it and the town votes yes for it, I guess the explanation of how the taxes are going to go up would be in the question. I don't know. What do you all think about that? Having the ability to have a second question put on. You don't have to use it. You never have to put it on.
But if you vote for it, the town votes for it, has to be specific as to what their second question is for.
Right. Oh, yeah, there's ways it has to be put on. Okay. Everyone's good with number 4?
But I thought that boards could not bind the next board to monies. So I don't know how that fits into
That's true.
the whole
School
idea.
boards, I mean, they'll figure it out legally.
Okay,
I mean, if it's not
That's
going to be
true.
allowed, it's not going to be allowed, but they're going to
yeah.
figure it out.
Well, and again, it wouldn't be the board that's binding at that point, it's the voters. I
I
mean,
don't
these
even think
would,
it's going to be binding.
yeah, I mean, but these would be questions on a ballot for the public, which is slightly different.
Yeah. And actually, we do always bind boards the following year. I think you can't bind 3 years out, like in negotiations, but then they change that also. Okay, how many was it?
5
Where's number 5? Yeah, number 5.
is from the Union County Vocational Technical Board of Education. And they propose that they change the policy, revise the policy authorizing the NJSBA nominating committee specific authority to consider vocation technical board members the ability to be considered for participation on a nominating committee. So right now, they don't. There's no vocational person
That's because they're not elected, right?
on the nominating committee.
Well, that's because vocational boards of ed are not elected, right? Aren't they kind of,
This is the nominating committee is for what we're gonna do Saturday, elect officers.
But they're talking about the fact of having more courses in schools dedicated to vocations rather than.
yes, this is the VOTEC schools, which are already there. They want to be able to put,
But I think you're right. I don't think those folks are elected.
I don't think they are either.
I think they're
They're
appointed.
appointed, which I don't love.
Appointed.
What was, the resolution adopted the resolution proposing the revision. So school boards is agreeing with the proposal.
Okay? Thank you.
Is okay with that? Okay, so back to number 1. What'd you find, Mr. Varian?
Oh, kind of disturbing a little bit. I mean, we keep changing direction from educational assessment standpoint. So in 78 through 82, we had what was called the minimum basic skills assessment, and then we introduced a 9th grade test in 1988, and then in 1996, we went to core curriculum content standards, and then we went to, with No Child Left Behind, we went to New Jersey Assessment on Skills and Knowledge in grades 3 through 8. Then in 2010, we went to the park, and then we went to 15, I think it's Common Core, and then a modified Common Core, and then in 2020, with COVID, we did the Start Strong, and I think the districts are like, you know, you guys don't know what the F you're doing, you know? So at this point, they're like, you know what, we're going to boil it down to two basic tests. And one is the NJ GPA, right, which is what, GPS at the end of the.
GPA, yeah, GPA.
GPA, I thought so, it's a typo.
Yeah.
Which just, you met at a minimum level to graduate college. And before that, it's the NJSLA series. So outside of that series and that one last test, that's it. We want you out of our curriculum.
But what they're saying here is that the state assessment should be limited to one assessment, which would be the NJSLS, and the NJGPA, which measures proficiency in that, and any other testing should be left. So the high schools are saying they don't want to have to give the NJGPA.
Yeah.
I don't think they did so well last
That-
year.
Probably, that's why.
The argument is between, you know, the formative diagnostic testing versus the summative testing. The summative testing, which is the, you know, the end of the year testing. You know, what are you going to do with that information?
There's a reason for it.
Right.
They should still have the test in it. It's the senior thing. They should
No,
have
no,
to pass the
they're
test.
saying we're going to include that.
They're saying one. and
They're
then
gonna
they
do
look to
one.
the districts to do the NJGPA. That's what this
They're
thing
gonna
is. It's a
take
high
the
school-
easiest one.
So I'm a no.
You
I don't
sure
wanna
it
see
reads that way?
Riverdale
Because I
drop
thought
it.
it was both those and none others.
But I'll take care of them Saturday.
To me,
Should
it
be
sounds
limited-
like both, the series and the GPA.
I think
What-
it says,
One.
No, you're reading it differently. The NJSBA believes two things. They believe, one, that the state-required assessment should be limited to one assessment, and the NJSBA believes that the NJGPA that measures student proficiency and that other additional attention should be left to the discretion of the district.
One thing to note too is that this resolution doesn't have the teeth of law. It only has the teeth of changing the New Jersey manuals of positions and policies on education. Now, once that's made, then they can go and try to adjust law because of that change. But there's no law that's changed based on, you know, whatever the vote is.
Yeah, but if they see all the school district, I mean, do we think it's a good thing that seniors in high school should not have to take a standard other than the NJSLS that we've always had one in the state that they should pass? I don't think it's an issue at Riverdale. I think it's districts that are having issues. I don't think it's fair to the kids.
you know, they talk about instructional time and taking out too much of the time for testing, and these tests are not really giving the educators the ability to make corrective actions because they're not comprehensive enough, the questions are not comprehensive enough, and they're not timely enough to do anything with these tests. So I think that's one of the arguments against.
But a lot of colleges today are not even, you have your choice. Do you want to just send in your grades or do you want to
Yeah.
take the, what do you call them? The college test ahead of time. So they're probably looking to,
That's not a
Easy
good
way
thing.
out.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
The SATs and,
That's not a good thing.
SAT, yeah. It's,
And given that those are now optional,
yeah.
you know, there should be some standardized testing that's coming out of the final year of high school.
Mrs. Posiesi, do you have any other additional thoughts on what you would recommend at this point?
I've always been someone who's believed in testing as an accountability measure. The NJGPA doesn't impact us at all, so it's a philosophical decision about whether you believe that all students, not just Riverdale students, but all students across the state should be held accountable. We have state standards, right? So if we have state standards, how do we measure those state standards? We either trust every district to do the right thing, or we actually have an accountability measure across the state. I believe in accountability.
So in terms of this resolution, if you were making a recommendation to the board on whether or not we should vote for this resolution or against it, what would you say?
I had to say, if I was Mr. Walsh at the meeting, I would vote for keeping the NJGPA.
So this would be no. This would be a no then.
That would be.
Is anyone in disagreement with that? Okay, Mr. Walsh,
Thank you.
so we are a no on 1 and 2, and a yes on 3, 4, and 5.
Okay,
Is that good?
yeah.
Anything else? Where's the
No,
meeting?
that's all I
Did we,
have to
do we
report.
approve your mileage?
That's all I have to report. If anybody wants to look at this, the delegate's handbook, to explain a lot more of the resolutions, I'd be glad to let you take it.
Where's the meeting?
What?
Where is the meeting?
Mercer College.
Did we approve your mileage?
Yes, you did.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Walsh. Personnel, Mrs. Walker.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to present F1 and F2.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Mrs.
I have one
Negum?
question. So on the Personnel Committee report, which is, in fact, this was
I think
probably
Patty
the one
went, so
from
went
the
to school
previous
to-
committee meeting, which was on, dated April 26th. There was some discussion on field trips and, basically a review of the current field trips attended by the students, and, you know, I guess which, field trip locations are picked, et cetera. Is this in relation to anything related to the curriculum topics itself, or, was this in context of something else?
You're asking if it was in relation to curriculum?
Yes, like the topics related to the field trips, or was this related to more the locations of the field trips themselves?
It was kind of related to who kind of makes a decision on where to go. And then Ms. Bozios said how it should relate to, you can take it from here, but it was, the discussion generally is broached on like, who makes a decision on if there's a field trip in the grade and where do they go and who can have it, and then tie it into curriculum.
Sure, and what are the struggles, what are the challenges, what are the benefits of a field trip? And from a personnel standpoint, if we believe in a new field trip, what do we do for our staff to help them prepare for that field trip? So we talked about if we were going on a new field trip and it was someplace we might send staff there, we might cover them in the classroom for a day and send them there ahead of time. That's why it was on personnel, because we were talking about it through more of a personnel lens. Who makes the decision and how do we make sure our staff is supported on a field trip, and how do we support that experience for our students?
Got it. And the reason why I asked the question is this something that we need to bring into the curriculum committee for further discussion?
I actually don't think it would be a bad idea. We can review, because that's part of what I did with personnel as well, reviewed the field trips that we went on this year and kind of our overview of it and whether or not they would be continued again moving forward.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Negum,
Yes.
Mrs. Downing,
Yeah.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Norian,
Yeah.
Mrs. Walker,
Yeah.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes. Policy, Mrs. Norian.
No report. I think there's a couple policies that we need to take a look at, so we need to set up a meeting. So if you could let me know. My only busy times are over Memorial Day weekend when my daughter's getting married, so.
One of them is residency. We said we could probably push that off till June if we wanted to. I guess see what dates you have.
the earlier the better.
True. Public relations, Mrs. Acosta is not here. Who's on public relations? We haven't had a meeting, okay. And I don't think we need to talk about COVID task force, so open to the public. You want to talk to us some more, Mrs. Holey? That was enough? Any old or new business?
I have some new business.
Go ahead.
So we are invited to a NJSBA school public relations program. I don't know if I'm the only one getting this, but it's an opportunity to head down to wonderful Trenton and spend a day talking about public relations and learning about best practices and so on and so forth. I think would be a good trip.
It's good to see what's going on.
When is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it here. June 2nd. June 2nd. Yeah, and they've got this guy, I heard him speak once before from nearby Cresskill, I think it was. Yeah. Anyway, I can't get the specifics here in the email while I'm talking, but he's very, very inspirational. So
Are they offering it through Zoom also, or just in person?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the same experience. Yeah.
Just in person. So if anyone wants
Yeah.
to go, call Mr. Marmara and get your mileage on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Any other old or new business? Okay, if anyone wants to make a motion to go into closed session to continue our discussion from before?
So
Second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not be coming back and taking any action. You ate our pizza, Mr. Hagopian? I hope there's some left in there. Have the pizza.